Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. I hope you're all happy and healthy doing the things you love. Please start the video, as we always like to, with a thumbs up. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to do that. Hit the subscribe button. If you're new around these here parts, it's free to do. 19,000 or so people have done it before you. Welcome back to them. Welcome to the new. Hit the notification bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's game day preview. Guys, it's Tottenham versus Fulham. We are back, finally. The Premier League has been back all weekend. We haven't played yet. It's Monday Night Football at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against Fulham, and we have the potential to take a 2-point lead going into next weekend's fixtures, where we play first on Friday night against Palace. Win tonight, win on Friday, and we go 5 points clear at the top of the table before anybody else kicks a ball again. A massive opportunity for Tottenham, one that we can't let slip through our fingers. And the stats guys would have you believe that the game should be fairly comfortable for Tottenham. I'm going to go through some of these stats. I don't believe it's going to be anywhere near as comfortable. It never is, as the stats would suggest and the betting market presumes. But here is the team news first and foremost. Let's start with Tottenham. Tottenham pairs Son Heung-min and Christian Romero have both overcome minor injuries sustained on international duty. The same can be said for Pape Matar Sarr as well. It's important to remember Christian Romero came off injured with a swollen ankle at halftime for his last game for Argentina. And he actually mentioned and said it was important to come off. Didn't feel great, but also we've got a massive game on Monday. So it's nice to see Christian Romero focusing and prioritizing Tottenham over friendlies for his country to a degree. Heung-min Son was forced to carry on in the 5-0 victory for South Korea in a meaningless friendly. Jurgen Klinsmann didn't take him off, which was incredibly frustrating for most Tottenham fans to see. Don't know if he was injured because of his ongoing groin strain that we think he might be nursing, and maybe not being entirely open about the consequences of carrying on playing with. Or I've heard recently that actually the pictures that were showing him wincing in agony were just because someone stepped on his foot. Either way, let's hope it's the latter, not the former, but both of them appear to be ready and fighting fit for this evening. Brennan Johnson has trained for the past 2 weeks and could also be involved, as could Brian Hill. It's nice to have him back. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do in this Ange Postecoglou system. But unfortunately, the big miss for Tottenham this weekend, or this Monday night, is Yves Bissouma, who is suspended following his red card against Luton. He only gets a 1-match suspension because it was 2 yellows. He's back for Palace. If he gets another yellow card in that game, then he's out again for the Chelsea game, which is next up after Palace, which would be a massive loss. And so we need to look towards who is coming in his place in the form and the shape of Pierre Højbjerg, and really hope that this guy is going to step up. We'll be talking about that in a second. Let's finish off with the team news for Fulham. There is an enforced change to the Fulham lineup, with defender Issa Diop ruled out because of a foot problem. Tosin Adarabioyo, who is the other right-sided centre-back for Fulham behind Issa Diop, or instead of Issa Diop, depending on the preference, is also out, as is Adama Traore, tricky danger man. It's nice to see that he won't be taking part tonight. And also, I think the biggest miss for Fulham is Kenny Tete, the right back, who I think is an absolutely brilliant right back. And I think he really should be playing at probably a better club. No disrespect to Fulham, but I think he really is that good and is solid defensively and helps out getting forward with Cordova-Reid on the right-hand side. But know him today. You will see, in all likelihood, a lineup for Fulham which might look like this. Leno in goal. I think Timothy Castagna can come in, ex-Leicester player, good, solid player that can come in. A lot of injury problems for Castagna in his career, but he's fighting fit now and will probably deputise again, maintain his position in the team. Without Issa Diop, I think you might have to see Calvin Bassey come in, and he might play on the left, and they might move Tim Ream onto the right-hand side. It's going to be interesting to see how they do it. Maybe I'm overlooking someone that's more of an obvious fit, but for me, they are a little bit threadbare on the right side of defence, and something that Tottenham can obviously attack tonight without Tete and Castagna in there, without Diop and probably Calvin Bassey, or if they move Ream over, someone's playing a little bit out of position, so it's an area for Tottenham to attack. I think then you'll have the other one of Ream or Bassey on the left, and then Anthony Robinson on the left, who I think is also a very, very capable fullback who can get forward, good defensively, can do all the things. He's got a lot of balance to him, but he's got a lot of pace and can get forward and help out with Willian at the top. How Fulham go about the midfield, I would imagine that because of their injury issues, they're going to probably come back and sit more of a low block tonight. And so you might see Polinia, who's a monster number 6, playing alongside Harrison Reed and Andreas Pereira, who's the more creative player who hangs out on the left but also can slip into the 10 role. And then up top end of the pitch, you might see Vinicius, the ex-Tottenham player, keeping his position as the outman, or you might see old man Raul Jimenez, who's been out for a long time injured as well, get some minutes, because I think that Fulham might play quite a lot of that kind of counter-attacking long ball stuff and see where they are. They'll have the likes of Willian off the left-hand side, and whether they go with Wilson on the right or Decordova-Reid, they do have outlets that can cause problems. And so our inverted fullbacks are going to have to be very patient with the ball at their feet, trying to break down a stubborn Fulham team this evening. But when the ball is transitioned in the turnover, and it will be, they're going to have to be able to get back, because with the likes of Willian and his pace and Robinson behind him getting up and supporting our left-hand side, or their left-hand side, our right-hand side could be vulnerable to some tricky players. It was in the first game when we lost on penalties against Fulham in the Carabao Cup. I'm going to come to the Tottenham 11 in a minute, but let's get into the match facts. The head-to-head starts with this. Spurs have won 7 of the 8 most recent Premier League meetings, with the exception of a 1-1 draw at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in January 21. Fulham's solitary league win against Tottenham in the past 17 attempts was by a 1-0 victory at White Hart Lane in 2013. They have failed to score more than once in any of those 17 games. Fulham beat Spurs 5-3 on penalties after a 1-1 draw at Craven Cottage in the Carabao Cup second round in August. Tottenham Hotspur have had 6 wins and 2 draws, which is their best record after 8 league games of a season since 1960-61, when they won their opening 11 games en route to the title. They were league leaders after as many as 8 matches for only the second time. They were top after 12 games on the 15th of December in 2020. A win over Fulham would ensure that Postecoglou sets a record of 23 points earned from his first 9 Premier League fixtures in charge, surpassing Mike Walker and more recently Gus Hiddink. Unbelievable stuff from the big Aussie, Big Ange. Let's just talk about Fulham for a second. Their 3 league wins so far have come against teams who began this latest round of fixtures in the bottom 5 of the table: Everton, Luton, and Sheffield United. The Cottagers are without a win in their past 10 Premier League London derbies, while their only triumph in 21 away fixtures in the capital was 3-0 at Crystal Palace on Boxing Day last year. I mean, it really, really doesn't look good on the stats, on the data, on the historical track record. Marco Silva, who's a manager I think is very, very talented. I really like Marco Silva. I think he's taken Fulham quite a long way in a relatively short space of time. But unfortunately for him, he's winless in all 7 Premier League matches as a manager against Spurs, where he's drawn 3 and lost 4. The only other interesting stat that's meaningful and to call out to you guys is that 7 of Bobby Decordova-Reid's 11 Premier League goals for Fulham have been the game's opening goal, including each of his last 3. So when you factor that in, and the fact that Fulham don't really score more than 1 goal against Tottenham, then if Fulham score first, it will probably be Fulham's only goal in the game, and it will probably come from Decordova-Reid. That's what the stats say. I don't know if you're a betting man or a woman, then maybe there's a little insight for you there. Look, I think that Tottenham are going to win the game, but I just don't think it's going to be that comfortable. I think the biggest miss for Tottenham, obviously, is missing Yves Bissouma, and we know who's going to be coming in. It's Pierre Højbjerg. I'm a big fan of Højbjerg. I think he's a very talented and hard-working individual. The best ability is availability, and he is always available. He's built like a machine. But you might ask the question of a player who's kind of thinks he's leaving the club in January, who ultimately has been replaced by a guy for the new manager, who the previous managers prioritized Højbjerg over, and seemingly has fallen out of favor to a degree. You might find a rationale in some footballers' minds to have a lack of interest, a lack of desire, a lack of willingness to go into the battle because he's got one eye on his future and a little bit of a distaste for what's happened to him in the recent history at the club, where he has been a mainstay and ever-present part over the last 2 or 3 years. And you could see that kind of mindset approaching in that player when he's asked to come back in. But I don't think that's the same when it comes to Pierre Højbjerg. I think this guy is a consummate professional. I think he will always give his all. I think he understands the situation. He probably will be looking for pastures new, but I also think that's a benefit to us, because I think he knows that Juve, who are interested in him, are also interested in other number 8s. Juve aren't blessed with huge amounts of money. He knows that Tottenham value Pierre Højbjerg at 35 million euros. And so if he's going to be the selection that Juve want in the January window or next summer, then he's going to have to justify that valuation and see if he can promote himself to the top of that shortlist of players that Juve would go for. And the way you do that is by putting in monster performances. And I don't think this is a one and done for Pierre Højbjerg. He will play tonight. Yes, Basuma will probably be back for the Crystal Palace game. But if Basuma gets a yellow card in that game, he's out suspended again for the Chelsea game. So I think that you'll find that Pierre Højbjerg might well have 2 or 3 more chances in the run-up into the January window. And I think it's necessary for him to put himself in the shop window and absolutely have a monster battle. But the midfield battle that had him in it, alongside Ollie Skip and Giovanni Lo Celso, did lose out in the first 45 minutes against Fulham when he was up against their monster player, João Palhinha. And I think that same battle is going to happen tonight. And I hope that this time, Højbjerg, with the commanding presence, the mobility, and the better technical levels of Pape Matar Sarr over Ollie Skip, should hopefully balance things out, especially we're also going to be playing at home and have the crowd on the side and the energy and the momentum. And I think that just maybe, it won't be quite as difficult as it was in the first half of the Carabao Cup game. I think that the back line kind of picks itself. Do think Pedro Porro and Destiny Udogie have to be careful, as I said earlier, when they do come inverted or when they are forced to go up the end of the pitch and be joining into those attacks. If we do lose the ball in transition, then with the likes of Robinson and Willian down the right and Castagna and Cordova-Reid down our left-hand side, down their right-hand side, then I do think that they can be dangerous. And we're going to need to have those guys mobile, aware, on their toes, get back into position where necessary, and ultimately make sure that they can sort of snuff out any of the potential breaks that Fulham might create. I don't think that there's going to be too many challenges, though. I do think that Tottenham's back line will be comfortable against what Fulham have going forward for the most part tonight, as long as we can keep our position and our heads about us. And really, it comes down to how Tottenham are going to break down a very stubborn low block in Fulham. Down our left-hand side, we have to make a big decision around whether or not we're going to stick with Richarlison or whether or not Postecoglou is going to bring back into play one of the 2 players that are returning from injury, and Brennan Johnson and Brian Hill, both of whom can play on the left-hand side. Has it come a little bit too soon to give either of them the starting position? I think that you could realistically rest and rotate Richarlison based on his form. He missed 2 or 3 gilt-edged chances against Luton. And on a meritocracy level, I think you could argue it's time to bring somebody else in, whether or not Postecoglou thinks that Brennan or Brian are both fully fit and ready to start. I'm not sure. Maybe one of them will and the other one will come on in the second half, or maybe they'll stick with Richarlison. But either way, when you look at the fact that they are without Kenny Tete and without a recognised right-sided centre-back in Diop and in Adarabioyo, I think that Tottenham should be looking to penetrate down the left-hand side if at all possible. And for me, I would feel more comfortable thinking that you had a Brian Hill or a Brennan Johnson running at that back line than probably a Richarlison. I don't necessarily think that it's going to be too much of a difficult night either for Kulusevski. I think he can have the better, certainly in strength, over Anthony Robinson. But Robinson is a more capable and more talented defender than a lot of people give him credit for. And obviously, with the very much experienced Ream, if he is going to be playing on the left side of the centre backs, then he'll also have he could easily have a good night as well. For me, I think that, like I say, it comes down to players like James Maddison being able to find the killer pass to unlock what is going to be a very stubborn and obnoxious defence this evening. But hopefully Tottenham are going to be able to find it, and we need to find it comfortably. I don't want to see us going in at 0-0 at half-time. There'll be nervousness and a little bit on edge in the crowd. If we get an early goal, 1-2-0, it'll be fantastic to be able to get some of the youngsters in, take off Sonny, give him the full breather once the game is seemingly comfortable and not going to be at risk. Give some minutes, hopefully, to Alejo Veliz. And like I say, to Brian Hill or Brennan Johnson, whoever is available and fit in that regard. Maybe if there's any youngsters on the bench tonight, it'd be interesting to see if Jamie Donnelly gets another spot on the bench, or Ash Phillips. Maybe it'd be nice to be able to give those guys a few minutes here or there if the game is beyond doubt. So on that basis, guys, I'm going to go for a very simple team selection. Pretty much picks itself of Vicario in goal, Pedro Porro right back, centre-backs of Mickey van der Ven and Christian Romero, left-back Destiny Udogie. Number 6 is going to be Pierre Højbjerg, Pape Sarr in the second 8, James Maddison in the 10. On the left-hand side, I'm going to probably presume he's going to stick with Richarlison. On the right-hand side, I think Kulusevski will keep his spot, and up front will be Sonny. I'm okay with it, but I'm very interested to see Brian Hill and or Brennan Johnson get some minutes. So let me know your thoughts, guys. Is the team selection as you would have it? Or do you think it's wildly different to that? And also, what is your prediction? I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory, guys. Let me know your thoughts. And as I said, or as I haven't said yet, but I'm going to say it right now, I'll be at the game. If you are interested in coming over and being on the fan cams after the game, then you can find me in the usual spot. I'll put the picture up on the screen now. You can find me in the usual spot when the stadium is open after the game. I think it's only open until 11 p.m. And then after that, if there's a few people that still want to do fan cams, then we can go down outside the club shop and set up the camera and everything there. So let me know. Either DM me if you're definitely going to come over. Let me know. DM me on Twitter or Instagram or WhatsApp me if you have my number, and we can make sure to catch up. If you don't know yet but you fancy it, then just rock up and we'll try and get you on the camera. Also, I'll be there early because it's a nightmare to get from where I am to Tottenham during rush hour. So I'm going to probably be there for late afternoon. So I have a lot of time to kill. So if you see me and you're around the area, again, come over and say hello and we will share a Diet Coke or something together. Be great to see you all, guys. And as always, come on, you Spurs.